Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Debates and Discussions. And on this show, we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be interviewing a council candidate with Stephanous Ioannou.
Yeah.
Okay, say hello.
Hi there, everybody.
Okay, sure. And we're going to be doing other council debates. I'm going to have a Labour person on in a couple of days and a UKIP person on next week. I'm planning to get some Liberal Democrat and Green people on here. Try to contact them. It hasn't worked as of yet. But I'll just play the jingle and we can start.
Debates and discussions. Local election special.
And just in case anyone was curious, that was Killing Jokes Democracy at the end, and then Mortal Kombat theme Killing Jokes Democracy at the end. Anyway, how are you, Stephanos?
I'm good, Edward. How are you?
Fine, thank you. And
Long time no see since secondary school.
Indeed, yes. And could you, for those uninitiated, could you tell people what you're standing for and where you're standing? And
so I'm Stephanous Ioannou. I'm 21. I study economics at Hertfordshire, and I'm standing in Southgate ward in North London, which is currently a Conservative-held seat, but in a Labour-held borough, with a Labour MP, Bambos Charalambos.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for coming on and taking the time to show. My first question is, what will the Conservative Party do for local councils, such as the one in Southgate, that will make them different from what the other parties intend to do? What would you say?
So this is the thing. I mean, in council elections, it's more one of one. It's about who people know as candidates, and people get a sense of feel and a better relationship with the candidates. But most of the parties kind of share a broad idea and a broad kind of base on what they believe in, and it's set out in the manifesto. So we all have similar ideas on road conditions, policing, education, environment. But of course we do differ in some aspects. For example, we did a petition against the closure of Southgate Police Station, which got 5,000 signatures, and we sent it to Sadiq Khan. The Labour Party did not petition against the closure of the station, and it was under a Labour-held GLA, which they closed our station. Another issue is the Enfield cycle lane. The Conservatives agreed with that. Labour, on the other hand, they embraced the cycle lane to the detriment of the businesses and motorists and road conditions, and £30 million, which could have been spent elsewhere. So there's differing parts in everybody's manifesto, but what we believe in is a reduction in crime by stronger law enforcement, better transport links, other than the cycle lane, for example, improving bus links, tube links, improving roads and the pothole crisis that we have across the country. And on education, so providing more outstanding schools, continuing to open schools, quality schools across the borough, is a top priority. So education, environment, transport, crime, these are the kind of things that we deal with. And local resident concerns, of course, and business concerns when people come to us directly. So parking, business rates, that's what councillors tend to deal with, and everything is set out in our manifesto.
Okay, a second. You just had the microphone anyway. Speaking of road potholes and stuff, what will your party do about local infrastructure, like say road potholes, for instance, for example?
So potholes are the top priority for our party because, number one, motorists have had a really, really hard time, especially when cars get sunk into potholes. They tend to spend hundreds, if not thousands of pounds fixing their cars. It's unjustified that Enfield Council, combined with the TfL, spent a total of £30 million on a cycle lane project which they didn't even grit during the winter. This 30 million could have been spent elsewhere, particularly on potholes. Potholes will become a top priority because, number one, it makes a place look like some ex-Soviet nation where they couldn't afford any money, quite frankly, on infrastructure. But you go to other parts of Europe and they tend to have better roads than us. It's unjustified with the amount of money that we spend on council tax. So, roads deserve to be better. Enfield Council under this Labour administration are not doing a good job. And what we need to do is invest more money in potholes and take it as a top priority, which is what we're doing exactly.
Well, yeah, fair enough. And speak on that subject again, what will your party do about potential pressures on local services?
So local services have had a tough time. This Labour administration tend to look at the fact that cuts through government funding, government-funded led cuts, apparently, and I put in inverted commas that, because actually funding in Enfield Council has gone up by 60 million. But there has been a cut in library service, in childcare services, in transport services, in special needs schooling services. Schools now have a situation where they have to make redundancies for teachers. This is besides the fact that schools per pupil have actually had an increase of £300 per pupil, where new schools are being built and the money is there, but Enfield Council do not take the opportunity, quite frankly, to utilise this money properly. So they say that they haven't got any money. Well, look at the budget. It's a £60 million increase that they're going to have this year. And they spend £30 million on a thing like a cycle lane. And they put money in places like Ponders End, Brimsdown, Edmonton kind of area. Well, okay, that's fine. But you've forgotten about the people who pay the top rate of council tax, band D and above, in places like Southgate, Winchmore Hill, Cockfosters and Grange. So, it's a top priority that we better the services, the council services such as public libraries and education services and environmental services, because the Labour-held administration haven't got it right.
Okay, and forgive me for the very general question here. What will you do that will help local community? Just anything else beyond the sort of infrastructure and whatnots that you've just mentioned?
So this is the thing. I mean, in my ward of Southgate, we have a particular problem with crime, with the high street, and with local parks. So taking crime, for example, we want to reintroduce a neighbourhood watch, set up more residents' associations so that people have a direct channel to get involved and to raise their concerns regarding crime. But going back to the neighbourhood watch, I think that's an integral part where people meet together, people are in the know, people begin to know what's happening in their local area, and we can start to get crime down in our area on a communal effort. Secondly, mentioning the high street. So we want to introduce Small Business Saturday, where the businesses on the high street come together, raise their concerns, talk to Enfield Council and talk to their candidates, put a bit of money, and together we can put shrubbery, we can put better parking, better paving, make the high street look a little bit more pleasant to entice people to come onto the high street. So it's through mechanisms like that. And thirdly, on environmental. So we have the splendid Grovelands and Oakwood Park in Southgate, for example, where we used to have the Park Watch, and we used to have numerous clubs such as the bowls clubs, the golf clubs, and all sorts of other activities where children and people of all ages used to get involved. That's all gone under this administration. So reviving things for the benefit of the community so that people get involved and people know what's happening in their area and can take advantage of better lifestyles, better community action groups. These are top priorities for us.
Okay, and one thing I wanted to ask is that, according to various polls that I've seen, as well as various articles, like there was one in The Guardian talking about after the last election, that the Conservative Party are not popular among younger voters, allegedly, and which arguably some say will give the Labour the ledge at these elections specifically. What do you think this is a problem? If so, what is the Conservative Party going to do to solve it?
The younger vote has always been an issue, predominantly for, I don't want to say right-wing parties. I actually think it's a problem across the whole spectrum. I mean, we've seen it even in a referendum where the young people of this nation had the opportunity to sway the vote and to actually change the outcome, but they didn't come out in the numbers that we expected. Okay, the decision has been done, but on a more local level, and even in a general election level, again, we still don't have young people coming out and making their voices heard. So what we need to do is we need to engage with them better. We need to set out policies that work in favour of them. But even in the Conservative Party, we now have the Young Conservatives group, where young people like-minded of the right wing come together and embrace the principles of free marketism, Christian values, the big society, all principles that we all generally agree with. But people need to get against the rhetoric that Labour, for some peculiar reason, is the party for younger generations. Because and this is a traditional saying, you grow up being Labour, but when you start earning a wage, you tend to become Conservative. It's because it's a kind of wishy-washy fantasy at the beginning, but when the reality hits, you immediately start to realise that lower taxes and the ideas in general that the Conservative Party hold are the right principles to go by. So the younger vote is a continuous struggle for all sides. But when I try, my main aim with young people when I talk to them on the doorstep is to get them to vote, because just as long as they vote, that's good enough. To get them on the political ladder, to get them to come to the stage where they start voting, is good enough for anybody, by any means. Because we have a problem in this country, and if that continues, even in the older years, that young people don't advocate their right to vote, that their ability and their enfranchisement to vote, then we're going to have a problem of low voter turnouts, and that's an issue.
Yeah, and by the way, one other thing about that, on terms of like probable voting problems, do you feel the Conservative Party may be harmed in these elections by recent controversies, like say the Windrush scandal, for example?
Yeah, I mean, we look at situations such as Windrush, and we've seen other things happen in the past. I mean, with the Russian, with the Skripal case, for example, where there was some conspiracy surrounding that, but particularly Windrush. We have a situation where people have come to this country, they've made this country their home, and all they knew was Great Britain, and they built this country together with us. These people, when they came over, they were given a passport, but the second generation now have problems applying for their citizenship. And these people, some of them haven't even left the country, funnily. It's odd to say, but some people haven't actually even left the country because, again, all they knew was Britain. Mm-hmm. It's a problem within the Home Office. It's a problem within the Civil Service. The Civil Service have got it wrong this time. And this is a problem that was inherited since 2009. This is a problem that came even under Labour. It was swept under the carpet in 2009, and when the Conservatives came in power in 2010, only in 2016 did the Conservatives really understand the situation here was at hand. This is an inherent problem across two governments. So firstly, to pinpoint it on one party is fundamentally wrong. This is a problem that we need to do on a bureaucratic level, where the civil service need to get a hold on top of this. And Amber Rudd today expressed how she's implementing expert policy advisors and expert people within the civil service to get a grip of the situation, senior people within the service. So I think this issue will be resolved, but it's bad enough that it happened in the first place. I don't think this is going to affect the elections that are coming. I think people always had in their mind what they always thought they were going to vote for. It's unfortunate what's currently happened with Windrush, but I think it's a small situation in the vast scale of local issues, quite frankly.
Okay, I wasn't trying to pinpoint to any party. That's just what the controversy has just happened. And more about yourself, actually, by the way, just to make sure I'm not just tying it to a party or whatever. What made you decide to run as a candidate, and specifically for the Conservative Party?
So I signed up in the Conservative Party age 15. My mum actually, so just give a bit of background here. I mean, my dad came to this country as a refugee. Quite frankly, he didn't care about politics. His ideology was, I'm going to work for my family. My mother, she voted Labour actually just because her family voted Labour. So the fact that I came out as a Conservative, well, you ask why. Quite frankly, I agree with the values of free market, big society, meritocracy, where people work for what they work for their end in life. I believe in a small state, not a big state. I believe in a society where people are not given as much support by the state. It's down to the individual and how hard they work. And these are the values I kind of agree with. Less regulation is another. And so at the age of 15, I signed up to then Conservative Future, and I got involved in the youth wing within my party. And the rest is history. I got involved in national campaigns. I got involved on a local level. And this is the first time I'm standing for elected office in Enfield Council. I grew up in Southgate. I actually went to Southgate at primary school, so St Andrew's Church of England. I know many of the businesses in the area. I know many residents there. So it was logical that I decided to stand for Southgate. But so that's how I got involved, and I'm here to stay. Quite frankly.
Yeah. Fair enough. And on that note, who would you say you look up to politically? Any sort of like influences, where either politicians or just generally otherwise?
Oh, that's a tough one. Usually, actually, I'd probably say David Cameron. Although it was actually one of the biggest flaws in him was that he called for the referendum at a very bad time, and there was too much emotion before actual fact, and a lot of people are upset by the referendum, and it was such a contentious issue. It's going to be very, very tricky to solve this issue. But I agree with David Cameron in many respects, because he modernised the party. He brought a lot of new faces in, a lot of liberal conservative people in, who brought us more to the centre, which made us win elections. And this is why we won 2010, 2015, and of course Theresa May has some differing ideas on how the party should be run. But I think the party changed under David Cameron's leadership, and that is why I look up to David Cameron and the values that he kind of brought to the table. Secondly, though, it has to be Margaret Thatcher. I mean, Margaret Thatcher brought in privatisation, brought in the free market that we see in this country, and the kind of open, free marketeer values that set us up for the 21st century. Before Margaret Thatcher, we saw a very communist-leading state where the trade unions grabbed this country and made it inefficient, bureaucratic, and where nothing could be done without a million layers stopping you from undertaking any action whatsoever. So Margaret Thatcher modernised this country. But, of course, David Cameron didn't modernise it as much, but he kind of set us up in a way that attracted a more broader electorate and made us win elections.
Okay, and on that note, just to be to give more questions here, who would you say? I mean, you've probably already given the answer. Actually, the best prime minister, and who do you think was the worst prime minister that we've had in this country?
The worst prime minister?
Yeah.
Who was the worst prime minister? I mean, well, Tony Blair, obviously. I mean, going into Afghanistan when there was no weapons of mass destruction.
That was Iraq, by the way.
Iraq and Afghanistan. So, going in when there was no weapons of mass destruction. And then secondly, obviously, Gordon Brown bailing out the banks to the expense of the ordinary taxpayer, which probably didn't even know what was happening. And it got us into a mass amount of debt. The best prime minister of this country, again, Margaret Thatcher and David Cameron, definitely.
And also, just what will you personally bring to the table if you're elected? Like, if you're put on the council, what sort of personal thing would you bring to the...
Better democracy, more accountability, your money spent in better ways. So the money is there. Even though there are some cuts coming from central government is cutting across the whole of the country, but this is in a drive to make people become more efficient and more conscious in the way that they spend on public services. The way that Enfield Council is spending on public services, quite frankly, is intolerable. It's appalling, quite frankly, and people are not getting value for money. So my duty, if elected, is to make sure that residents get value for money, get more for what they pay in terms of council tax, and make sure that the top priority things such as roads, schools, environment, and the high street in my area in particular are solved. But another thing is Enfield Council is quite poor in the sense of they don't even video or record in the council chamber. So if somebody wants to see what's happening in Enfield Council, you're going to have to read through tons of minutes, where quite frankly some people do not have the time. So one of the things that I would like to see, although it's subject to what my Conservative group say, is video recordings inside the chamber. I think that's beneficial for everybody to look back and say, what did my councillor, my candidate, or whoever in that chamber say on X day on X issue? I think that's very important. Okay,
also on that note, maybe like you talk about one way to hold it to account. What other ways do you plan to be either held to account or just the general councils be held to account, just to make sure?
I embrace social media. I embrace email. I embrace any form of communication. People can come to our office at any time and stick a note with our secretariat who is there at the given time, and I will gladly follow up. And I'm sure any Conservative candidate will follow up. It's our duty to follow up, but making sure that people, when they do have an issue, that you follow up, because there's been situations in the past on all parties actually where people, they've come with genuine issues, with genuine problems, and seek a solution from their elected representative, and people, they just don't take them seriously. So actually following up on issues and finding solutions is very, very important. So that's a priority of mine, to make sure that I get the issues and that I get them done in as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Okay, and just talking about like Labour and stuff like that, with Southgate now being a Labour area and London being run by a Labour mayor, do you think that there might be issues with that, you being a Conservative, or do you just intend to just try and keep calm and carry on sort of thing?
If I, in terms of the election, of course, if I'm not successful, I will contest it again, as always, because I love my area and I think Southgate has a lot of potential. But, of course, if you're the minority in power in the chamber of Enfield Council, then your governance is strained and you can't deliver on the promises that you intend to promise. The promises that I'm making here today are subject to if we win the council, of course, and this is across all wards, across the whole borough. It's not just Southgate. So we need to make sure that we elect as many of our reps as possible, because Enfield is slowly going down the drain, quite frankly, under this administration. So it's important that we elect our representatives so that we can enact the promises that we make, so that people don't get not bothered and not just not fussed anymore about elections, and that people just genuinely don't care. We need to keep up the pace and keep up the energy.
Okay, and you used to be, being in the Southgate area, you knew David Burrows. What was he like, I guess, as an MP, and just, I guess, something to work with?
David Burrows was an excellent MP, and he's a man of principle, and he's a man who sticks by what he says, whether people disagree or agree with him. He's an honourable man, a family man, a Christian man, and he did a lot for our local area. He stood up always for what he believed in, and whether it be gay marriage, Brexit, the reforms to the benefit system, etc. He sticks by always what he believes in. It was very sad to see him go, because I listen to a lot of residents now, particularly in Southgate, and they tell me the situation where Bambos, the new MP, hasn't even gone to their doorstep, and that's sad.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
I genuinely I listen to that on a daily basis, and I think David had a more one-to-one personal relationship with many people, and it's a shame that relationship has gone. But anyhow, I hope that he contests that seat again in the next general election in the next 4 years, hopefully. I don't want another one.
Yes. Funnily enough, I was about to ask, how is this new MP getting along? I understand, by the way you started, it already sounds pretty bad, but and generally otherwise.
I don't really know. I mean, a lot of people, they tend to disagree with Bambos in my area. I don't know any areas of... I'm taking on the ward perspective now. You take Winchmore Hill, Palmer's Green, Bowes. These are areas and Southgate Green that fundamentally went Bambos's way. There was a lot of disenfranchisement and a lot of people upset, which made people stand up and say, I'm voting for Bambos because he's against Brexit. But you look at the situation now that Bambos is in. He went back on the key promise exactly of Brexit. Bambos went in not only as a Labour candidate, but as a person that was putting flyers and leaflets through people's doors, telling them that he will want to stay in the customs union, he wanted freedom of movement, and he wanted to stay in a single market. And I know this for a fact because I even got one through my door. The fact that Bambos didn't stand up for Chukwuemuna's amendment in the Queen's speech that would have settled what he put in his campaign pledges of wanting to stay in a single market, customs union, and freedom of movement. Guess what Bambos voted with Chukwuemuna's amendment that would have...
He voted against it?
He voted against it. Now, you tell me, if you go back to all those people that voted for Bambos, if they're going to vote for him ever again. Don't know about that now.
And yeah, just also maybe in the general area of North London is now, after this last election, is very much a Labour stronghold. Well, not a stronghold, but as in Labour guys, apart from... Barnet, which is led by Conservative, if I'm not mistaken. Why do you think, I guess, North London's turning slightly red, even if it's probably just for the time being?
North London is particularly turning... London in general, I think, is turning red because the metropolitan areas are finding strains in a range of services. And this is because Labour-held boroughs, particularly in places like Enfield... and we have the likes of Brent and Camden and Hackney and Islington, where the services and house prices are particularly high, and people pay extortionate amount of council tax, and they're not seeing the services that they can. People, they take that out on central government. Don't ask me why, I don't understand. But people, they tend to say that the local services are to blame on a national level because of central cuts. The answer to that is no. We've seen people such as the council in Barnet, particularly in Wandsworth, where they have, and Westminster even, where they've spent their money efficiently. But Labour, in their spin, is just unbelievable. The way that they manage to tell people that they're better off with a Labour administration. It's just fundamentally wrong. It's fundamentally wrong.
And And on that note, what do you think? I know I'm probably getting an obvious answer for this. How do you think Sadiq Khan is doing with London?
Blimey, don't even go. I mean, the guy closed our police station. We sent a petition with 5,000 signatures, and we didn't even get a response from him. And when we updated the residents were absolutely fuming with Sadiq Khan and with the Labour administration. I mean, It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. You make a petition. You cause so much energy, and it's bad enough that you're going to have one police station left in the whole borough now, in Edmonton in our case. The police response times will go down, and it's a shame. So Sadiq Khan, quite frankly, has annoyed a lot of people. He's made a lot of people upset, and he's responsible for the rise in crime. He's responsible for the cuts that we're seeing in social services, in services such as libraries, schooling, environmental. It's under his watch. He's the London mayor. He declares the budget that goes to local authorities. And he, in his place of Police and Crime Commissioner for London, he's responsible for the crime in the capital. And we've seen nearly, 30, 40 stabbings and deaths in the capital this year. This is unacceptable.
I think it's 60 now, if I'm not mistaken.
60. Sorry, apologies. I mean,
no, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but, 60. I mean, what's he got to answer to that about?
Yeah.
He should be ashamed of himself.
No, because, thanks to, I wouldn't say, I'm not sure how much this rests on his shoes, but I had actually my phone stolen in London by a moped gang, which they don't seem to do anything about, but hey, I'm just going to leave that to the side. Do you think, I know I probably already asked this before, do you think there might be clash between your, if you get in between the council and the top office of mayorship, or doesn't that really...
No. Everyone at the end of the day tries to work harmoniously. We all try and do good for the capital in general and for the borough in general. At the end of the day, we do try and find some sort of equilibrium, some middle point where we make progress. It might take long, it might take a short amount of time, but usually we get there at the end. It takes a bit of a tug and pull, but we get there at the end. Labour and Conservative for the good of the residents.
Just thinking about it. Have you? I'm just trying to think of questions. Because you said you joined at 15. Did you know anyone in the? Because it was do you think? Sorry, I just tried. I got one question. Do you think Boris Johnson was a better mayor than City Council?
Oh, Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson, love him or hate him, he was a fabulous mayor under his leadership. He brought the beautiful travel buses. He brought the Boris bikes. He brought the Emirates cable that goes over the Thames. He did a lot of regeneration in some poorer parts of the capital, particularly in places like Newham, some parts of Islington, and particularly in South London. He led a big regeneration project there. So we should be thankful actually for the progress that Boris made in the capital. So I think Boris was a good mayor overall. We should reflect on that and say, Sadiq and weigh the two. And I think people will find that Boris was actually a better mayor.
Which I would say that as well, even though I never voted for him. And just because I'm thinking about it as a London, do you think even Ken Livingstone was better than
Oh, no. Don't like Ken Livingstone at all. No.
Fair enough.
He had such a excessive budget that he didn't know how to spend, quite frankly. He became very, very inefficient, very, very complacent, quite frankly. And you only need to look at his his record in terms of his comments on anti-Semitism in some communities in London. It's tarnished his reputation.
And let me think. What point? What could be like the clinch, I guess, that wins it for you this election in terms of gaining one up on Labour and stuff like that? What do you think would be the what do you think would help you gain an advantage over, I guess, Labour in this election?
Value for money, being personal with people, being active in your community. The people who are active in a community and are out there helping local charities, local institutions, local schools, getting out there, and people seeing that, they'll take a different perspective of you. The case with me is, I helped out a homeless charity. I mean, a conservative person, it might seem odd for some people, but I find it completely normal. I went and helped out a homeless charity at my local church. I went and did a soup kitchen for them, and I'm proud of that. I got involved in my local charity, the Thalassemia Society. proud of that. I didn't do the marathon, but I wear their top when I go out campaigning, and I advertise that local charity. I went and cut the ribbon for Nando's. They spent 1.5 mil in Southgate. They created 80 local jobs. You know, you go out there, you support people, you support local groups, you support the people who have a presence in your area, and people, when they see that, they will take a different stance of you. And of course, you promote your values of value for money, in terms of how money is spent, and you form a relationship with people. That's the most important thing.
And talk about campaigning. Have you had a positive response, or just general campaigning?
Very positive response.
Oh, right.
I'm very, very pleased. But it all comes down to the day. I hope that people will get behind our principles and our values, and see that we're the correct choice and the right choice and the only choice, quite frankly, because you look at other manifestos such as Labour and the Liberal Democrats, it's just absolutely toxic. It's just more money going down the drain, quite frankly.
All right.
Quite frankly.
All right, and speaking of small business, what sort of activities have you done for the? Not talking about the charities, but stuff that you just talked about, like small business in general. What do you think is being a major achievement in that regard? And do you think that will boost your image, I guess, in this election? Supporting
business is very, very important, particularly in my area of Southgate. The High Street has seen a very, very big. It's basically gone downhill. The High Street, the paving. The situation where it's just basically become a big block of concrete. Nothing beautiful about the High Street anymore. We have a few empty shops. So one of the things that we're very lucky to have on the manifesto is the Empty Shops Task Force, where basically we promote 30 minutes free parking outside of shops. And you go inside to the shop, you get a coupon and you put it on your car. It promotes local shops, it promotes local businesses, local profit, local jobs, but also the business rates. So the first 3 years, businesses will have a cut of business rates in 50%, because traditionally businesses in the first 3 years, they're more likely to close than any other period in their time of in terms of presence on the high street. So it's important to give them a good start, a jump start, and to make sure that their costs are low to make them time to become established. And with the help of local businesses and local business federations, I think we can come together, put a little bit of money together as well, also to make the high street look a little bit more beautiful. I don't know if you've gone down Southgate High Street, but the situation could be improved. So that's a top priority of mine.
Okay, speaking of like the empty shops thing, that was my next question actually. Why do you think there's such a problem with empty shops? Because I've seen various manifestos say that we're going to do something about it. How do you think it sprung up, and what? And again, just you could just re-clarify, just say again what you.
The rise of online, and the rise of shopping centres, for example, and but predominantly online shopping. It causes people to divert away from supporting local shops. And even actually going to the shops in general. Actually, it's not even just local shops anymore, but the local shops have obviously got the biggest brunt of it all. I think that if you make a place look beautiful, if you increase the attractiveness of an area, and you entice people to come, and you make businesses want to set up cafes, bars, coffee shops, get rid, quite frankly, of the betting shops, and make shops with beautiful shop fronts that serve the local community, I think people will support the high street. You go to some parts of London, they've got bustling high streets. You go down Hampstead, you go down Uxbridge, you go down Borough Market, you go down Wandsworth, you go down Camden. These are places where they've got some booming high streets. I don't see why Southgate can be any different.
And also just talking about like local services and stuff like that. What are you going to do about like local hospitals and stuff like that? We
don't have authority over local hospitals. That's down to central government. But what we do have a jurisdiction over is adult social care, which has seen a big cut, and even mental health services, which is another part which the local authority has a jurisdiction over in the London boroughs. So, of course, we're always up for a real increase, not just an increase, a real increase in funding. It's all in our manifesto, and it's open to anybody to go and see.
On that note, where would the money come from, I guess, in that? So just general council tax or other...
General council tax. So we're always for as low as possible council tax as possible. And, we're just going to have to make do with what we have because people pay enough. How we fund adult social care and mental health services, it might require outsourcing, but I can't comment on that because I don't know the exact details of healthcare for the manifesto. Predominantly, I deal with environment and crime. and education.
Yeah. Sorry for like ask similar questions before. Like, what's your main method? I guess on any sort of crime around the area of Southgate.
So we've seen an increase in muggings, an increase of burglaries. So one part of our manifesto is an increase in ward-funded police officers, because the Enfield Council actually employs policemen in its borough. Not just the Metropolitan Police have a presence, but the borough employs police officers. So we want a doubling in funding for that, to make sure that the borough get a grip themselves on the crime rate that's happening in our local area. And, again, increase the number and create an energy again for neighbourhood watches, installing CCTV, at the same time ensuring that the residents are aware of methods to prevent crime happening on their property, so installing CCTV. I mean, there's a range of ways of improving, decreasing the crime rate in our area. But the fact that Southgate Police Station is going, and the 5 dispatch cars at the back of the station, because although it didn't have public access, we had 5 dispatch cars at the back, and that's where the response times came from. Crime will get worse. So the manifesto seeks to limit the impact under Sadiq Khan's actions, quite frankly, by doubling the amount of council-funded police officers. So we're trying to counter it in that way.
Mm-hmm. And talk about one-to-one approaches, like how would you, beyond social media stuff that they talked about, like just your general sort of like local area if you were to be elected and stuff like that. How would you make yourself, I guess, known to the council? Would you to that area? Would you like go to like organise events and stuff like that?
I go to every person's door. I've done Southgate 2 times over. I've knocked on everybody's door. I've talked to people for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes even 20 minutes. I take time. I listen to people's concerns. Email is a fantastic way to get involved and to raise concerns with your local councillors. I've been on radio, I've been on TV, I've been in newspapers, social media. I have my own Facebook page. So there's a range of ways that you can get in contact. But I go out there nearly every single day now, alongside studies.
And also, just on that note about campaigning, like what other stuff have you campaigned for, just so people can get a better idea, about what sort of way it stands are like?
The cycle lane was poorly implemented. So £30 million, 15 million coming from Enfield Council, 15 million from TfL. That was a poorly implemented project where cyclists actually don't even get a good deal themselves, because they're taken through the main road, and the increased congestion, because now there's more traffic lights, means that it's not pleasant for cyclists to actually go down that road. I even speak to cyclists that tell me that they don't even agree with the way that the cycle lane was implemented. You don't see enough cyclists, quite frankly. It has increased congestion. The businesses are having a very, very hard time, because people, they don't even bother going to the local shops anymore because they can't be bothered to park. And it's just, quite frankly, a waste of money. We also have a problem with elderly people tripping over the Orcas, so basically the bollards that are placed now on the road. We have a problem with people, and Enfield Council has seen an increase in people claiming against the council, money for damages and injuries, etc. So it was poorly implemented. So that's another part of our manifesto, is to provide a review of the A105 scheme and to halt all future cycle lanes. So that's a main...
Yeah, the thing I was just referring to is, sorry to say, whatever, like, just other general campaigns you've been involved in, not include, just like also national campaigns and stuff like that as well, like...
So I was involved on the Remain campaign to stay inside the European Union. Of course, I respect the vote. Moving on, I'm involved in the Young Conservatives. I'm involved in a Conservative Group for Europe. I'm involved in local charities. I'm involved in local residents' associations. My biggest priority now is winning my councillor elections next Thursday, which hopefully, touchwood, will be a success. But I'm involved in many organisations and many things, and people can see that on my social media. It's all there.
What first got you into politics in the first place? Like, I understand you joined the Conservatives at 15, but what first got you interested in politics, or just engaged in...
I literally went to one of their events, and they put me on a committee for one of the... one of the meetings that I went to, and then I just got really involved, and then I became chairman, and I took a formal position then, and it just kind of prospered since then. So it was a gradual process, but I guess it just came spontaneously. I never really intended to come this far, but obviously they enticed me, and I followed, quite frankly.
And one thing I noticed, you do a lot of media processing. You're very high. Who's probably the most high person in the Conservative Party that you actually met and stuff, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, David Cameron, Theresa May. Who else? David Lidington, Damien Green, a range of MPs, ambassadors. I've met people from all levels. I've even met Theresa May's husband, Philip. Lovely guy. I've met numerous people, but I've met senior figures. Yeah.
And how does it feel to be, going on various media appearances like this? I remember you being on Victoria Derbyshire and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been on Victoria Derbyshire. I've even been on Greek TV, Cypriot TV, Turkish TV, Russian TV. All kinds
Russia Today or not?
No, I was on what's it called? Number 5, like channel. What was it? Channel 5 in Russia. I don't know what they call it. But yeah, I've even been on Deutsch TV, so Deutsche Welle. I've been on a range, but look, that's just a bonus. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I embrace and I thank you and I admire you for doing these radio hosting. For it's a good way for people to get involved and voice their opinions. Mm-hmm. But of course, it's down to local campaigning and speaking to people and knocking on people's doors. But yeah, but in my time, I've done a lot of media appearances, and I speak from the mind. Quite frankly, I don't speak as a traditional politician. I just speak what I believe in, and people they agree, people they disagree. But hey ho, got to carry on.
Mm-hmm. And also on that, what was it? You're part of a Conservative Friends for Greece, if I'm not mistaken. Or?
Yep. So Conservative Friends for Greece is a group that has 20 MPs. And we all seek to improve the relationship between the UK and the Hellenic Republic, whilst at the same time advocating within the Conservative Party the values and culture of the Hellenic Republic, but also forming a bridge between the Greek and Cypriot communities here in the UK. But to reiterate that, the Greek community here in the UK, the Cypriot group is led by somebody else. But regarding the Greek community, which is around 200,000 strong. Mm-hmm. And we have seen an improvement in relations, and where issues do arise, we lobby our MPs and we seek support, and most of the time we do. So it just echoes that even post leaving the European Union, we will have a relationship with these MPs, and the community here will be strong and active on a political level.
Okay, and as well as on that, what do you think has been your proudest achievement just doing?
Standing for council.
Okay.
Standing for council, definitely. It's a big honour, and to go out to a 10,000 electorate and to seek votes and to hopefully be elected is a big privilege. Mm-hmm. But it's been an amazing experience. I've enjoyed every single moment of it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't look back. I'd do it again.
Well, maybe you might be doing it a couple of
years
you
never know.
What about the negative aspects? Do you think there's been negative aspects to your political, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it takes a lot of time out from your social life and from family. But it's just something you've got to do. And I think I balanced them well, even with university. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I managed to balance the two relatively well. And you got to make sure that the one doesn't dominate the other.
Yeah, sure.
Very, very important. But no, I don't look back on my time as a campaigner and advocate for the values that I hold. Rather, I embrace it and look forward, onwards.
Mm-hmm. And talking about Conservative Friends of Greece and stuff like that, just because you're involved in that sort of thing. What do you think of the political situation right now in Greece, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, we have nearly 45% youth unemployment. The investment in the country is poor. We have increasing tensions with our neighbouring country, Turkey, which is a shame because really we should be working together, not pulling each other apart. But in Greece, there is the traditional problem of debt, unemployment, and a lack of stability and a lack of getting to grips with the national finances. Once we sort that out, I think that Greece will be on the road to prosperity as any other nation inside the European Union.
Do you think that could happen potentially under, pardon me if I pronounce his name wrong, Yanis Varoufakis' new party, do you think?
Varoufakis?
Yeah.
Nah, I think Varoufakis is a bad example. He actually went behind the Greek people when he was in office and sought to make a new currency under Russia. So I'm completely against Yanis Varoufakis coming into government. by any means. I mean, I completely fundamentally disagree. His values are fantasy and, quite frankly, Marxist to a certain extent.
All right. Just because it gets a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And at least it's not a certain other party in Greece, I guess. Golden Dawn and stuff.
Oh, Golden Dawn is banned from media appearances. I don't know if they're banned from the elections. Don't quote me on that. I'm not too sure, but I think they have. They've had issues in the past, and people have tried to take them down, and quite rightfully so. They are fascists. They're not an accurate representation of the Greek population, as are the fascists and as are the communists. I'm against extreme parties on either side, and I think centrist, centre-left, centre-right parties are the way forward.
And what do you think in that, I guess, that sense about who do you think will be the best person to take Greece out of the current situation that it's currently in?
A conservative government, always.
Okay.
Because they always get to grips with the finances. Always. It's just standard. Free market, pro-investment, pro-immigration, pro-business, pro-enterprise, deregulation, best way forward.
Okay. And do you think the problem is now that there's too much of a Marxist sort of influence in Greece?
Definitely. Syriza is a Marxist party, in my opinion. Definitely.
Because I remember hearing, I've watched Up on a Car quite frequently, and one thing he discussed was the fact that there's a bunch of Marxists currently in the Greek parliament.
Definitely.
And, so just... So what are your plans, I guess, over the next week or so? Just into
campaign, every single day campaign,
every
single day campaign, out on the doorstep, listening to people's views, getting pledges, standard campaign. As any other campaign, to be honest, I'm treating this a bit like a general election, but it's important. Out every single day campaigning from like 10 till 5, 6 in the evening, and I don't stop until instances like now.
Sure, fair enough. Yes. Sorry to be eating up your time.
It's all right, don't worry about it. No.
Speaking of, like, the Conservative government just in general, also, like, what do you think has been the greatest achievement in government as of yet?
The right to buy, the reinstatement of the right to buy, privatisation of certain businesses such as the Royal Mail. What else? I mean, the fact that we just continue to deregulate and continue to promote the values of the free market and embrace society in terms of the big society, which are things that David Cameron led on. But also, I think this government has actually increased the international relations across a range of countries, actually. We've seen improved relations in places such as the Middle East, in countries across Europe, and even stronger ties in places such as Asia. Just continuing to promote global Britain and conservative values. I think these are the major aspects.
Beyond the ones you've already mentioned, which MPs in the current administration do you like, or just generally like?
I like Kenneth Clarke. I love Kenneth Clarke, Anna Soubry, Nicky Morgan. Who else? David Lidington is actually quite sound as an individual. Martin Vickers. These are the kind of MPs that I like. And
if you don't mind me asking, I hope it doesn't strain any relations, like any of the MPs in your party that you're either not particularly a fan of or anything.
Jacob Rees-Mogg. Oh my goodness, no. I mean, I haven't got anything personally, but I think it's alienating some parts of the population. I think people are not looking for that type of ideology right now. I think people are looking for someone sound in the middle, and I'm worried, quite frankly, if Jacob does go quite far.
Anyone else you're not particularly keen on, I guess?
That's about it, really.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I'm all right with everyone else.
And what the Conservatives were in coalition with the Liberal Democrats. I remember when Nick DeWitt told us, like, it was a fake worse than death. Did you ever meet anyone from the Liberal Democrats? Did you think they were a burn or whatever?
Never met anybody from the Liberal Dems.
Okay. Do you think they were more of a burn or a blessing to the Conservatives?
I don't agree with their values. I agree with Conservative values, and that's about it, basically.
Fair enough.
Liberal Democrat, Green, Labour, all the same thing at the end of the day, quite frankly.
Are there any, are there any Labour MPs that you actually somewhat like?
Chuka Umunna I quite like. I think he's a nice man, individual. Apart from that, that's about it. Chuka Umunna. I like Chuka Umunna. He's alright.
Fair enough.
He's educated in a range of fields, and I think he brings a lot to the table as an individual. And I think his opinion is one that everybody should take on board, regardless of political opinion, because a man speaks logic in many, not all aspects, but many aspects.
Yeah. And also just thinking of more recent events. Like, I understand this is not council stuff, but just to get a general sense of, I guess, your opinions on this stuff. About the recent strikes at Syria, do you think that was...
Wrong.
Oh.
Absolutely wrong. You need to exhaust all diplomatic solutions before going into a nation like that, because we're just destabilising the region even further. Quite frankly, it's the world's problem, of course, but not particularly our call and our decision to go and bombard a nation, effectively declaring war.
Especially, there are countries like Sudan which the leaders under national arrest warrant, which we don't go near. And I guess on that subject, was it? I'm just trying to... I guess the final question will be like, what's your favourite song? Because this is a radio station.
My favourite song?
Yes. See if I can find it on this thing.
What's my favourite song? I'm gonna have to think about this. Shaggy, It Wasn't Me,
Okay.
because that's what Enfield Council, I think, kind of advocate. Whenever you tell them something that they've done wrong, they tend to refer to the song of Shaggy. They might as well have that as a manifesto, because they always keep on saying it wasn't me.
No, it was conservative, I swear. Anyway, I'll just play this song.
It wasn't
and
me.
be
It wasn't
yes.
me. It wasn't me. That's all they say.
Okay, I'll just play this to finish us out. Thank you very much, Stephanos, for
Thank you,
coming in,
Edward.
and good
Thank
luck
you so
to
much.
yourself. And
Continue the good work.
I will, yes, and I'll just play Shaggy now. Thank you very much for coming in, and have a nice
Thank
rest of your
you.
day, and good luck with the rest of your campaign.
Thank you very much.
Indeed.
The home of print, radio and TV for students.
Okay, that was a very great Stephanous Ioannou, who just came and did an interview about Conservative Canada. Because I'm not a member of any party at this point, or I have no idea who I'm going to vote for, I'm going to see how the chips lay. And in the next couple of days, on Saturday, I'll have a Labour guy for you. Can't remember his name. I'll have it actually. And a UKIP person as well called Deborah. Next week, I have all those people next week. Over the coming days, I'm still trying to get a Liberal Democrat and Green person as well as other parties, but so far those haven't succeeded. And I just hope I can get some more parties on here just to make sure I'm not just generally representing one viewpoint or another. And these are the next two council things. So if you like what you heard, I'll be sharing that shortly. And I just hope you go and vote on the next day for whoever it is. Just please vote, otherwise, all this sort of thing. Just go and vote, whether it be left, right, centre, Monster Raving Loony Party. I guess I want to still know that. Yeah, that should just be it, and I'll just play my jingle again, and then I should be off.
Debates and discussions. Local election special.
Yeah, so